Hi everyone, this is Heather from Storyville Photography, and today I'm going to be editing this image of my son in the flower. The funny thing about this image is I told him to smell the rose. I didn't say which part, and he ended up smelling the stem there, but I just love how it turned out. Anyway, this is the before and the after. So we'll get started here, and we will finish here. Okay. So to get started, just like on every other one of my images, we are going to run the image base. It adds contrast, it brightens, and it darkens the edges. So here it's a little bit too dark for me. And if you want to move the gradient, all you have to do is click on it, move it around, make sure the brightest spot is over your subject. Okay, and then we are going to turn the brighten up down just a little bit too bright there. Okay, that looks good to me. So this is with image base, this is after. His skin is still a little bit dark, but we're going to run something specially for that. I'm going to go into the Storyville Retouch and click on the brighten skin. Go ahead and play that. From here, I'm going to click on the brighten skin, make sure it's a soft white brush and 100% opacity. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And I'm just going to run this over his face, his hands, and his hair. Now, if you notice, it is blowing out highlights and just a little too bright. So we're going to turn this down to, let's see, that looks good to me. And there's still a little bit parts of his hand that look a little blown out. So I'm going to take a black brush, reduce the opacity a little bit, about 50%, and brush off. Now, as you can see, his eyes are a little bit dark. So what I'm going to do is take a white brush at 100% opacity, zoom in a little bit here, and paint it on his eyes. And I like how that looks. And we're going to brighten up the catch lights a little bit more too. Tone that down just a little bit. Good. So this is, let me zoom out a little, before and after. Next, I want to give his eyes a little bit of color. So I'm going to go into the Retouch, and I'm going to run the color Eye Enhancement here. Open this up. And he already has blue eyes. It's a little hard to tell here, but I'm going to just make them pop a little bit. Turn that down. And that looks good to me. So before and after. Now he looks pretty good to me, but the background tones could use some work. So I'm going to run Storyville Lavish Turquoise. And with a white soft brush at 100% opacity, I'm going to paint this on the areas where I want some more color. It's going to come on strong because I have it cranked all the way up, but we will adjust accordingly when I'm finished painting. I also think his shirt needs a little help, so we're going to continue on and paint it over his shirt. Now if you were doing this for a client, I would zoom in and make sure that you get it completely covered and mask off the areas where you don't want it, but for this tutorial purpose, I'm not going to go back and waste your time. Okay, and that looks pretty good to me. Zoom out here, and as you can see, it is overpowering. So I'm going to go into here, and I'm going to select the turquoise base, double click. I go into the neutrals panel, and we are going to decrease that a little bit. That looks good. And take away some of the yellow. Now that looks really great to me. Let me show you the before and after. Subtle, but it adds more depth to the image. So now because we decreased the yellows in the background, any other areas that you want brighten up that did have the yellow tone, go into the Color Dazzle and increase. I like how that brightened up the little light spot back there in the rose, but you don't want it on all your image. So what I'm going to do is click on the mask, invert, take a soft white brush at 100% opacity, and paint on the areas that I want to pop. Okay, and that looks good to me. So before and after, and we're done in here. Next we're going to add a sun flare, and I love this sun flare. I use it on so many of my images. I'm going to select it all, copy it, and paste it. Set to screen mode. Now as you can see, the sun is coming from the right side here, so that is where we are going to place our sun flare, right on top. Now after you have the sun flare where you want it, you're going to want to add a little bit of blur, or you're going to have this line through your image that is not very attractive. So I like to add the Gaussian blur around 28 radius, and the line is gone, and it makes the sun flare itself look more dreamy. So that's before and after. I'm going to mask some of this off of his face and a little bit of his hair. There. I feel like the tones are a little bit more muted than I would like, so I'm going to go back down to the image base. Oops. And click on the Color Dazzle and turn that up a little bit. And that made the sidewalk stand out a little more, the colors pop a little bit more, but it also made his skin tone a little icky. So what I'm going to do is click on the layer mask, use a black brush, turn it down to about 60%, and brush off. Okay, and that looks good to me. And I think the edges are just a little too dark. We're going to lighten that up just a little bit to about 35%. Now the sun flare isn't quite as bright as I would like, so I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to click on the Hue and Saturation panel. Make sure it's only going to affect the sun flare layer. So I'm going to hit this, and I'm just going to watch the sun flare till it takes on the tone that I would like. And that looks good to me. So we'll click out of that. So next we're going to work on his skin tones. They don't look terrible, but he is a tad more magenta than I would like. So we're going to go into the Retouch, Skin Color Correction, and play that. Go into the Reduce Magenta, white brush, 100%, make it soft, and he's going to look green. But we are going to lower that. Good. And it took some of the magenta away. Now his skin still looks a teeny bit flat, so what I'm going to do is run the Dodge and Burn, and I have that in the freebie section for you guys, so feel free to download that. Burn the shadows and dodge the highlights. So I'm going to burn first. I'm going to take a black brush around, you're going to want to do a low opacity. I usually like to use about 8 or 9. Woo! If I can get there, there we go. Zoom in. I'm going to darken up his eyebrows a little bit. Around his lash line. Bridge of his nose. Add a little bit more contrast to his hair. And his shirt. And you can always duplicate the layers if you want it even darker to give it more dynamic. I'm not going to spend too much time doing this. I could dodge and burn all day, but I won't waste your time. Okay, now I'm going to click on the dodge, select a white brush, and highlight the nose a little bit. Just above the eyebrow, the eyes. Maybe dodge the hands a little bit more, or burn, I should say. Okay, that looks good to me. You can see subtle, but definitely a good difference there. Okay, and I think we're done here. So let me group these all together for you guys. So this was before, and this is the after, from start to finish. Thanks for watching, guys. You can find all these presets on storyvillephotography.com along with the sun flare. Have a great day!